7 p.m. audio test for Peralta board meeting, Peralta Colleges Board of Trustees meeting, February 4th, 2020. Audio test at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night, February 4th, 2020. And there's Mark Johnson. And we are doing an audio test for the Peralta board meeting, which looks about to start.
Hello, trustees, and hello, Peralta community. If I can have trustees take their seats. Madam Clerk.
Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We will call the meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Trustee Withrow. Thank you. Everyone stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are going to move right to 2.4, report of action taken in closed session. Madam Vice President.
No actions to report.
Thank you for that. Item 2.5, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved. I'd like a second. I'd like a second. We have a second. I'd also like to just make one notation.
There is one modification. Under Agenda Item 3.1, consider approval of out-of-state travel. Bill Withrow is added and Mang Ling Cho was removed.
And on mine, it does not have
Thank you.
the dates, and it just has my name for ACCT. It doesn't have
That's
dates or
true.
anything.
Okay, and for the record, Trustee Handy's information will be completed.
It's the
Okay,
same
as Trustee Brown.
and Withrow.
And then
Mine should show a reimbursement for 3 of the days because it's not being paid for by the district.
Did you get that? And just for public comment, Trustee Brown's is being paid for by ACCT and not the district.
Three of the days are being paid for.
Thank you.
has a
They're
comment.
making me work.
Thank you.
And mine doesn't start till Sunday.
Trustee-
Madam President, I'd like to request that we pull 4.1 from the consent calendar to put it on to an action item.
4.1 is being pulled and moved to action.
Right.
Thank you. I'd also like to make another adjustment, but I'll go ahead and let the board clerk take care of this?
Is the volume on? I don't think people can.
Can everyone hear? No, so something's wrong with the
Volume in the room.
volume. The other item that I would like to move is, we have a presentation and action item, which is 5.1 and 5.2. I would like to move that up prior to consent, right after the Chancellor's report. And if there are no other, yes. And if there are no other changes, we will take roll call on the agenda.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan? Trustee Weinstein? Yes. Trustee Brown?
Yeah.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Here.
And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. We'll go ahead and move to approval of the minutes. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call, please.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein? Yes. Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese? Yes. And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries.
thank you. Item 2.7, Associated Student Government Reports. Come on down.
Hello, board members. My name is Max Franke, President of the Associated Students of Berkeley City College. Over the past few weeks, we've been trying to keep our campus fully equipped for our students. So we have been providing events that have been educational as well as celebratory. One of those events was a Lunar New Year. And on Tuesday, February 28th, Berkeley City College will be celebrating Lunar New Year. The Chinese Cultural Club, as well as the Chinese Student Association, will be providing students with great food, music, and cultural activities to bring us into the year of the rat. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So this week we have our club rush. Every semester we have a week-long club rush where students can learn about the amazing clubs that we have on campus that include cultural and non-cultural clubs. We had a great turnout today, about 100 or more students, and was really happy to see that. And on February 11th and 12th, we will be having a voter registration drive. So it will be in the atrium from 12:15 to 1:15. So your voice is powerful. Get registered because your vote makes a difference. So if you guys can make it out, that'd be great. And yep, that's it. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Romani Traylor. I'm the Vice President of Student Associated at Laney College. Yay! So far we've been doing is really giving to the students. We've been giving fresh produce out every first Tuesday. And we also, it's Black History Month, and we're going to have some more. I think we're going to have people for the Black Panther come down and speak to us, and also me and my president was really in our board was really talking about it's just not the students that matter, it's the staff too. And half of our staff is on this board, so I'm kind of upset that we're telling our little secret. But we wanted to have appreciation. We give out awards because you guys do matter. You guys gave us a lot of good feedback and a lot of good purpose to make us motivated as students to want to go to this college. So we have that coming up next, I believe it's on the 15th. No, it's not on 15th. is on the 20th, that we all get all the staff together, play some games, and move it forward with that. And also, I think the last thing we are doing for us to report is just bringing our campus life up, bringing the campus life up, and having more activities every weekly than like just little small things like give away free food or something, to just bring the students to have more something to look forward to, just having something to more look forward to. Well, that's my time. Thank you for having me here. Really appreciate you guys. Hey, keep it going. Thank you.
Can we give a quick round of applause for the admin? In gratitude, you know. A quick round of applause for the faculty. Yeah. And for the students, of course. Thank you, friends. So, hello everyone, good evening. My name is Israel Kazan, and I currently serve as ASCOA's president. So, report time. Last Friday, the Peralta Student Council was able to meet. It is comprised of ASBCC, AS Merritt, AS Laney, ASCOA, and our 2 student trustees. So that was amazing because we were able to talk about insights. We were able to hash out issues that we all are having, and we were able to align. And then VC Brown was there, and she was able to present on the AC Transit Easy Pass thing that is currently happening. And there were also Peralta student alumni who showed up. It was former student trustee Sharon Clegg and Mark Wilson, and they shared insights with us, and that was just amazing. And we are hoping to have PSC meetings monthly. It'll repeat February, and at some point we hope to invite the Chancellor to be with us. And I was actually delighted to meet other Peralta student alumni. One of them was, his name is Dave Ivan Cruz, and he currently is helping shape policy on the state level. Yes, and it just shows the good that Peralta can do. So I think snaps for that. One thing that happened today is that it was inspiring to partake and to hear from speakers at the opening ceremony of the Black History Month celebration in College of Alameda, and we were graced by Chancellor Stroud's presence as she shared her experience and thoughts in Black History Month. Thank you. And okay, I think this is my last thing. I am excited for ASCOA because we have actually planned the entirety of our events for the whole semester. It is just a matter of submitting the paperwork and executing them. So we are going to have a Spirit Day a week from now, you know, to boost up people's spirits and to, you know, get those degrees. However, I am concerned that ASCOA is being asked to use our own money in spending for these events. This has been a recurring theme since last semester. I do acknowledge that there's the unfamiliarity of the timeline with the college. However, this semester, I believe you submitted everything, especially for the Spirit Day, on time. Yet, verbatimly, we are still, it was still said to us, given there won't be cash advance provided when we receive student reimbursement checks, please be notified that you all have to pick it up, your reimbursements. So let that sink in for a little bit. Us volunteers, I myself volunteer my time, and I'm being asked to spend my own money to do events at school. So thank you.
Thank you. So I know, so Chancellor, maybe we'll take that under advisement and have you come back and shed some light on that.
I think
for
I need
us.
to get a little understanding of what was being stated and know how we might be able to be helpful. I'm not quite sure I understood.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And thank you for those lovely reports, students. We will move on to Peralta Classified Senate Report.
Good evening, President Bonilla, members of the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Stroud, presidents, and guests. Tonight we have 2 campus reports. The first report is from the Berkeley City College Classified Senate. The Senate is currently reviewing a 2-year goals survey. Preliminary results show the priorities are the classified retreat and cross-collaboration between campuses for professional development. The BCC Classified Senate gives Chancellor Stanback Stroud and the Peralta Board of Trustees its full support in their efforts to meet the standards necessary for accreditation. The next scheduled Senate meeting is Thursday, February 13th. The second report is from the Merritt College Classified Senate. On Tuesday, January 28th, the Merritt College Classified Senate discussed resource allocation and classified professional staff prioritization processes. Annual program review and student area outcome processes are important to identify each department or program's staffing and resources needs. For example, personnel, supplies, and furniture. The Senate also discussed College President Dr. Marie Elaine Burns' retirement and their goals of working to support Dr. David M. Johnson, the acting college president, and Dr. Lilia Chavez, acting vice president of student services, in their new roles. Classified staff were encouraged to participate and support the Merritt College accreditation leads. Dan Lawson, Accreditation Liaison Office. Nagim Tai, Accreditation Faculty Lead. And Tachetta Henry, Accreditation Classified Lead. The Merritt College Classified Senate announced the upcoming Lunar New Year and Black History Month celebrations. Sankova, Merritt College's Umoja program, and presentations will include the Black Cowboy Association on February 4th, Umoja Sankofa Paint and Reflect and Project Celebration on February 4th, MISTA FAB on February 6th. Lunar New Year celebrations weren't available to announce, however, will be shared via email. The classified staff were also encouraged to be sympathetic and remember to support students and staff affected by the unexpected recent passing of Kobe Bryant, Jana Bryant, Peyton and Sarah Chester, Alyssa, Carrie and John Altobelli, Christina Mauser, and Era Zobayan. The Merritt College Classified Senate President shared her experience with comforting students whose trauma was triggered with their passing. Classified staff were reminded that many of our students are still healing from the trauma of losing family members or other tragic events that they've experienced. On Tuesday, January 28th, the Associated Students of Merritt College hosted 2 screening memorials for those who are mourning. The Senate acknowledged their appreciation for the Associated Students' efforts to support our students. Lastly, the Senate shared concerns regarding the coronavirus and ways to prevent exposure and infection. That is the end of the campus reports. Thank you very much for your attention and continued support of the Peralta Classified Senate.
Thank you for that. We'll move on to 2.9, District Academic Senate Report.
Good evening, President Bonilla, members of the Board of Trustees, Chancellor, and everybody else. The faculty, we're in our 3rd week of courses engaging students. I myself started a late start class that started this week. And we had a meeting of our District Academic Senate today. And of course, accreditation was on the minds of everybody. And I know that the Chancellor will probably be making her remarks regarding it. What was positive in that meeting was the fact that our academic senate and faculty were definitely engaged at the college campuses doing the ICERs right now, and things are moving along, and the faculty feel very, very comfortable about how that is moving along. And so I think that for the work that's going to be going on, I think that's commendable in terms of the people that are stepping up and really helping out each of the colleges. on the issue of the FIGMAT issues and our accreditation issue there. I think, again, the Academic Senate is willing to basically collaborate with the administration to try to get those issues resolved. There's concern just in terms of some of those items, in terms of if we could get those done in a timely way, because they involve hiring of personnel and other issues. But we hope that in the next coming months that we're going to be able to address them. Another issue that ultimately needs to be tackled, and I need to see how we're going to address it, is that next year we're going to lose our hold harmless, and that is going to place us again in a financial situation to the tune of, I think it was $6 million that we set in our 5-year plan. So I know that this upcoming year, and maybe starting this semester, we begin to look at how we're going to address those issues. I'm hopeful that with the efforts of our own Chancellor and I am assuming our Board of Trustees and so on are all actively trying to address this with the state. And I was heartened to hear our Chancellor speak to that. And I know that at the Senate level, we are also concerned, and there was efforts last fall to basically endorse the movement of the Bay 10 and others who have been fighting against these issues. And so with the new formula, and more specifically about the hold harmless. So I think that's going to be a very important issue. On one hand, we're going to have to address it and plan for it. But on the other hand, we're going to also try to see what we could do. And I hope that as you go to your meetings, your statewide meetings, that you guys are also advocating, because we desperately do need that help, because this next round, as we've already cut, it's going to be just that much harder. So I don't look forward to that. Finally, we're looking in April to have the statewide spring plenary here over at the Marriott, and so I invite any and everybody to come to it. Should be pretty interesting in terms of the different topics and stuff, and our Chancellor, hopefully she'll be able to attend some of it. So thank you.
Thank you for that. We'll move on to item 2.10, public communication. Madam Vice President.
We have 4 speakers: Dr. Van Hook, Adele Ray, Andrew Park, and Jennifer Shinosky. Dr. Van Hook?
Can the speakers please make their way to the podium?
Dr. Van Hook, are you here? Okay, let's move on to Adele Ray.
My daughter from Girl Scouts, and now I'm here. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Ina Adele Ray. I've been teaching for over 15 years. I've taught at NYU, Parsons School of Design, the New School University, and Eugene Laney College in New York before coming to Oakland in 2011, where I now live. I began teaching at Berkeley City College as a part-timer in 2014 after I quit my full-time job working for a TV production company in Oakland. Sorry. I also work as a freelance film and video producer and editor. I'm currently teaching documentary production and editing, as well as movies to multimedia at Berkeley City College in the multimedia department. I also am a parent organizer at my daughter's school, Lincoln Elementary in Oakland, Chinatown. I'm also the PFT rep at BCC. One thing I notice about being in the Bay is that in order to get things done for you or your community, you must participate in the process. and that's why I'm here today. And I'm not here just to get things done. I'm here to be in community with all of you and all of my brothers and sisters out here in the union, and all of my sisters of color in the community who help serve and protect our children and our community. This is the only community college I've ever taught at, and I really understand now what it means to be teaching at a community college. And I'm dedicated to this community. And the part-timers who have stuck through the challenges of Peralta are dedicated to this community. I work closely with my chair as we navigate the challenges of enrollment and meeting accreditation requirements in support of the administration, of our administration. At times, I'm asked to go beyond the time that I have allotted as a teacher, and I do so because I'm dedicated to my community. I also bring in the real world to my students. For example, my old students and new students all came out this past Friday to Eastside Arts Alliance in East Oakland to a work-in-progress screening of mine and other local filmmakers from the community. I take my students with me inside and outside the class, and our department has seen our students go off to schools like NYU, Columbia University, UCLA, and we also have other students who stick around in the community and are making amazing films that elevate the people of the Bay Area and their stories. From a film called Black High Tea, about a group of lady elders from the African American community passing on their high tea tradition to the next generation, to a portrait of a local artist who is the daughter of a Holocaust survivor who found healing through her work and also teaches at Laney. Those students have moved on. One works at KQED and is at Mills College, and the other one graduated and is working at BAVAC, Bay Area Film and Video Coalition here in the Bay Area. And they're leaders in the community. I just got out of class today, and I had students pitch amazing projects like a portrait of an Asian American artist who gives workshops for other Asian American artists on healing intergenerational trauma through their work. And another student who works in the community with a homeless organization who pitched a project that explores the intersection between homelessness and race in Oakland. Our students are actively participating in our community to make it a better place, and I'm so proud to be a part of this community. We are all weaved into the fabric of this community, and we are all dedicated. And I want to urge you to understand that in community, we need to feel acknowledged and seen for our work and feel valued. And I urge you to consider providing us with the parity we deserve as part-timers. I'm urging you to participate in our community in a positive way. Our dedicated part-timers are struggling. They may have to choose between paying for housing or paying for health care. It's paycheck to paycheck situation. So again, I want to urge you to understand that in community, we need to feel acknowledged and seen for our work and feel valued. And I urge you to consider providing us with the parity we deserve. And I'm urging you to participate in our community in a positive way. Thank you.
Good evening, trustees, chancellor, administration, faculty, staff, students. I'd like to start by just echoing some of Adele's comments. Full and part-time faculty alike are here because we're committed to education generally and to our students specifically. It's that commitment that's led us to submit a proposal to the district in hopes of settling our contract once and for all. We're willing to accept less than 100% because the stability and health of our colleges is more important to us than short-term wins. We're willing to accept less because we want to find a way to work with the administration and the staff and the students in our community in order to support the colleges that we love. We will keep fighting for fair wages for all employees. We'll keep fighting for safe, clean, well-lit learning environments for our students and working environments for our faculty and staff. We'll keep fighting to ensure that cuts are kept as far away from the classroom and from the students we serve as possible. We'll keep fighting to ensure that public dollars that are meant for the public good stay for the public good. And we'll keep fighting to ensure that we get equal pay for equal work. The district has expressed a commitment to all of these things as well. And we're optimistic that together we can make that commitment a reality. Thank you very much. Good night.
I believe that's all the public comments that we have for this evening, so thank you. And we will move to 2.11 and turn it over to Dr. Stanbeck-Stroud.
Thank you, President Bonilla, members of the board, my colleagues here on the dais, and members in the public. The first thing I'd like to do is just take a point of personal privilege and introduce the interim general counsel and chief of staff, Mr. Delisle Warden, who's sitting to my left. Nobody's more glad that he's here than I am. The second thing I'd like to do is just acknowledge the celebration of African American Heritage Month, and acknowledge the contributions that people of African descent, particularly the African diaspora and people African Americans make to our culture and our society on a regular basis, to the institutions that are social, cultural, educational, religious, financial, every aspect of the institutions that serve our society, and particularly educational. And thank the College of Alameda for inviting me to make some comments as they kicked off their African American Heritage celebration. And then just with a happy birthday note to Rosa Parks, I'd like to make a few comments about the accreditation news that we received at all 4 of the colleges. You know that each of the 4 colleges were notified by the Accrediting Commission of an action that they took to place all 4 colleges on probation. I'd like to give a little context to that. The news is disappointing, but I'm confident we're going to be able to address their concerns. In fact, I had a conversation with the Senior Vice President of the Commission, Dr. Stephanie Droker, and it is my understanding that the Commission is committed to our successful response, and they are there to be of service to us if we need. So I'd like to stress a few points. First of all, once we got the information, I communicated immediately to the Board of Trustees. Then immediately the next day, I had a tour to each of the colleges in the district where I had an opportunity to address the original purpose that I was going there for, which was just people an opportunity to meet me, give me ideas, and raise concerns, in other words, to listen. But I also had a chance to address the accreditation issue up front at each of the colleges, and so for people who attended, got a chance to hear these notes of context. I then followed up the next day with an announcement that went to all 4 of the colleges, and subsequently the next day, including the district office, in order to give some context around that. We are making arrangements for Dr. Droker to meet with the executive leadership so that she can talk about some things very specifically. And I know that we are making arrangements also for the accreditation training that will take place at the board. So let me just point out a few things, and if you've had a chance to hear any of those things, read any of those messages, then this will not be new information, but I do want to state it as a matter of public record. First of all, it's critically important to recognize that Berkeley City College, the College of Alameda, Laney College, and Merritt College all remain fully accredited colleges now and for the duration of the probationary period. That's important for the students and the community to understand. Students and community members should understand that they continue to receive excellent, fully accredited, and affordable education at these colleges. The next thing is I want to give some context to the news. It is disappointing, but I also recognize that it could have been much worse. You see, typically when colleges are asked to do a 5-year fiscal sustainability plan, either they're able to say to the Accrediting Commission, we have our issues addressed, or the Commission says, we think you have those addressed, or they say, actually, you need to show cause as to why you should continue to receive full accreditation. But they didn't say that. What they said to us, and it was relayed in the conversation with Dr. Droker, is that they believe that we are making good progress. They recognize the momentum we've established in addressing the issues of the FITMAC, of the Financial Crisis Management Assistance Team recommendations. They believe we're making good progress, and they think that we simply need more time. And so they are giving us until November to be able to be responsive and continue to make progress. Now, we are addressing those challenges, but in the meantime, understand that the issues were not new issues. They were issues that were raised in the FITMAC recommendations, so in the FITMAC analysis. So we have a good understanding of those issues, and it is not issues of program integrity, educational excellence. They're not issues of the value of the curriculum. There are not issues of pedagogy or teaching. They are fiscal issues, which are challenges, and as you heard in some of the speakers, will continue to be challenges, but that we are developing strategies to address that. So it's really important for us to make sure we understand that. The other thing I want to talk about is I do have confidence that we'll be able to do that. I actually, at the same day that I was receiving the letters about the 4 colleges, I also received the letters about the work that I had done at a previous college in order to lead them through accreditation. And so in one hand, I had a letter that was giving me commendation for the work I had done. As a matter of fact, there were 4 commendations with no recommendations for improvement and no areas that were out of compliance. And it was that leadership that, along with the team, the faculty, the staff, and the administration at that college, that we were able to get that type of a recommendation. So I have full faith and confidence that we'll be able to bring those kinds of ideas and bring those types of approaches to support the 4 colleges in the Peralta Community College District. The other thing that I would like to say is that in terms of the items that ACCJC identified, I just want to remind us that they are consistently the items that were identified in FITMAC. So basically, they validated and verified the items of FITMAC. And when they said they did not have evidence, I want to give some context to that. So first of all, I want to thank Dr. Siri Brown for her leadership and support, and all of the rest of the executive team that pulled together the 5-year financial sustainability plan in submission to ACCJC. The second thing is that ACCJC repeated what they saw in FITMAC. And so when FITMAC when they were here, if they asked for some information and either that information wasn't available or there wasn't a person in that position that would provide that information, their language was no evidence was provided to say that the district meets this standard or carries out this process. So when ACCJC repeated that the evidence was not provided, that was not about evidence not being in the financial sustainability plan. It was a repeat of that language in the FITMAC that says that we didn't provide evidence to show that we had moved our way through, for an example, the structural deficit, or we didn't have evidence to show that we were addressing the financial controls in place. So I just wanted to clarify that and to say thank you to the administrative team that did a yeoman's job in trying to make sure that we were able to give the best response we could to ACCJC. And I have full confidence that we'll be able to move forward and give an even better response in November. And finally, I will say that we are working with them because we are also in the middle of a second process, which is the preparing your ICER. And what we are doing is working with them to see if we can combine that work so that the report that is due to them, instead of it being due in November, that we can combine it and have it due in the following spring as well. It gives us that time, and it keeps us from having 2 different processes. They'll let us know whether we're going to be able to do that, and if we are, then that's great news. And if we're not, then we're going to meet the November timeline. What that means for the board is, in order to give you a November report, to send off a November report, that means we give you a second reading in September. You don't have an August meeting, that means we give you a first reading in July. Which means it's February now, which means next week No, I'm kidding. Which means 4 months from now, we'll be putting a draft in front of you. All right? So thank you, and please let me know if I can answer any questions. And with that, if there are no further questions, if there are no questions about that aspect, then I'll turn it over to the presidents to make a comment about the colleges.
Seeing no questions, we'll turn it over to the president. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chancellor, for helping make that so clear, and for your visits to the college. Absolutely, everyone sees the work that's happening and is prepared to ensure our success with accreditation. This is week 3 of the semester, and we are so excited with all of our students and innovative curriculum. As was mentioned, it is the kickoff to African American History Month. And at Berkeley City College on Monday, we had an incredible group of traditional African drums. It was downstairs in our atrium at the same time that we had our food pantry. So it almost felt like walking into a worldwide market with the music and dance and food. So it was very festive. So I want to thank our students for their great work with that. I also want to thank my leadership team at the college. You know, while it's week 3 of the spring semester, we are already preparing for summer and fall semester. And under the leadership of Vice President Cooney Hay and working closely with Dr. Siri Brown, we are beginning a block schedule for our fall semester. While that seems so simple, and while you would wonder why we haven't had that in place for years, it's getting everyone to work together so that students actually, if they take a class at Berkeley City College, can then still get to take another class at another college if needed, or make sure that the courses are blocked so they can go from one class to another without overlap. Because many times a 20-minute time period prevented students from getting 3 classes versus 2. And we're very confident that's going to help for our enrollment in the fall, as we're really working on increasing that enrollment for when the stability funding changes. And the other thing I wanted to mention is under the leadership initially of Lisada, our vice presidents or our have been working, I should say our directors of administrative services, with our new security company, A1. It is a lot of work to retrain a new group, but there are some really stellar people in those groups. And I really want to thank one in particular, James Fuller, publicly. All of the colleges have done program review. That is part of our institutional effectiveness to really ensure that our planning drives our resource allocation. And after stepping back into the college after 4 years, it is still very clear from that planning process we're absolutely ready for our new building. And I really want to thank all of the work happening in facilities, again, under Lisada, for getting our program and construction management happening so we can get those bond dollars to where the students will see it and the community. The other piece is our faculty have been so innovative, and statewide there's guided pathways movements. We have some faculty that have really helped lay out plans for students of what they should take to be able to finish in 2 years and transfer. And on Friday night, we had a psychedelic ball for our psychology program, and we had professors from UC Berkeley as well another UC and the CSUs with our faculty helping lay out for students how they could take classes and how they could even do substitutions if they need to be able to transfer. Because that certainly is one of our missions, you know, transfer degrees and certificates and career education. And it wouldn't happen without the incredible work of our faculty, administrators, and staff, and in particular, Linda McAllister, Dr. Linda McAllister faculty, who helped make that happen. And I think that will be the rest of my report. I know you want a few brief minutes, but thank you, and thank you very much, Board, for your support as we really work to ensure that we meet all of these fiscal items that were noted. Thank you.
Okay, to give President Gilkerson a moment, I'm going to go next to the Chancellor, Board, faculty, staff, students, administration, and community. Good evening. At Merritt College, the birthplace of the Panthers and the seedbed for the development and expansion of African American studies as a recognized and dynamic field of academic inquiry, we commenced our Black History Month activities in earnest today. And like BCC, thanks to Ramona Butler, we began our celebration with a drum circle and libation ceremony in the Huey P. Newton Bobby Seale Student Lounge. It was quite a spiritual and meaningful experience to those in attendance. And again, I'd like to thank Ms. Ramona Butler for making that happen. Next, we had a visit from the Oakland Black Cowboy Association. Yeah, the president of the association, Mr. Wilbert F. McAllister, shared some fascinating history about the legacy of black cowboys. He took some pictures with our students and other cowboys in attendance, and he even afforded some of us the opportunity to get on a horse, sit in the saddle. So there is some evidence of me on a horse somewhere in the suit. The event today concluded with a paint and reflect project, which was really powerful. Participants were able to choose from 5 historical figures: Crispus Attucks, Frederick Douglass, Ida B. Wells, Shirley Chisholm, and Tupac Shakur. And they were given materials and a canvas to create their own portraits, and a brief presentation on each of these figures wrapped up the day. So today was a great kickoff to our Black History Month festivities, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge Ms. Tahita Anderson, who heads our Sankofa Umoja program at Merritt. She did a fantastic job. And just in closing, I also want to say today, our Next Up program, which is the Foster Youth Educational Support Program, had the opportunity to meet with Alameda County Office of Education, the Probation Department, Foster Parents Association, and foster youth from the Youth Advocate Program to discuss strategies for improving services and program for our foster youth. And we look forward to building on these constructive conversations, and we'll keep you apprised in the weeks to come. Thank you.
All right, I'll go next. So from greetings from the island of Alameda. Today also we kicked off our celebration of Black History Month, and it was really great to have the Chancellor join us for our celebration today. I want to give a lot of props to Brenda Lewis, who really herded lots of cats to make a wonderful, wonderful program today and get a really good turnout. Our Moja program was there. A lot of our AFRAM students through Professor Jody Campbell were present. It was such an uplifting way to, I want to say start the week, even though it was the second day of the week. It felt like this is the way you want to start every week. So I'm saying this is how I started my week. It was really great. And then also on some uplifting news, kind of parallel to institutional accreditation, many programs go through programmatic or program-specific accreditation, and one of our programs we have at COA that does that is our automotive technology program. And so this fall they went through their self-evaluation process for automotive technology as part of the National Institute for Automotive Service Excellence, and we just got their letter, so it's kind of great getting 2 letters in 1 week. And their letter was they received the highest level of accreditation possible, which is the Master Automobile Service Technology Accreditation. So I am so proud of the faculty and the staff in that program for all the hard work they do and deliver great service to our students and do such excellence, which is gave them the highest award in the country for their program. So I just want to give them lots of props for all the good work that they do. So that's it.
Good evening, trustees and colleagues. I'm pleased to provide the report for Laney College. Similar to our sister colleges, we also kicked off Black History Month today as well with our celebration for the Black Student Union has been working on a month-long celebration, and today was Val Shurant doing the powerful musician and teacher, artist, and healer in our community. He did From Drum to Steel Drum, From Africa to the Caribbean and beyond, and I'm grateful to Hope Lane and all of the Black Student student union students who helped put on these events. I'm excited to tell you about a couple of highlights for Laney College. Our Laney photography student, Christine Chorney's work is being featured in the Hayward Photo Central Gallery from January 25th to March 7th. Her work, Still Life, is one of the black and white finalists at the Hayward Photo Gallery Award. With praise from her professor, Mike Moya says Christine's artistic style of photography exemplifies her skills in the black and white medium. Her unique compositions of urban street, landscapes, and natural still lifes capture light and form. Christine's work is a journey in time. On Tuesday, January 28th, the Black and African American Advisory Panel of the California Community Colleges hosted the Town Hall and College Fair at McClymonds High School in Oakland. It was co-sponsored by our own district, and our Chancellor led really the event with amazing remarks to the community. I was pleased to be in community with my other college presidents as we all helped facilitated breakout listening sessions, and I had the privilege to help co-lead one with the on the understanding and improving access for African American students. Our PIO, Lorena Baldazzo, and our Umoja Obaka co-coordinator, Cassie Phillips, provided college information at the Laney Outreach Table, and they had quite a showing, I have to say. And we were also excited to have KMEL's Shay Diddy, who is a radio personality and music director, as part of the program. And y'all, she gave a shout out to Laney College as an alum and made a reference to the fact that Laney really helped her finish her studies at UC Berkeley. We're pleased to announce that Laney instructor Mark Razan has been nominated to an Oakland District 4 Local Hero and will be honored on Saturday, February 22nd, from 11 to 1 p.m. at Laurel Elementary School. As a founding member, past president, and emeritus board member of Friends of Saucil Creek, Mark has worked actively on the local grassroots environmental scene for over 25 years. His first major project was in 1997 with the city of Oakland that re-engineered and restored a half-mile section of Diamond Canyon and Saucil Creek, and he has made additional efforts to save the endangered pallid manzanita, whose tiny colonies in the Oakland Hills had dwindled to the point of disappearing. And he also has led efforts for over 16 years to monitor bird restoration in areas totaling over 60 surveys. Mark really has been a leader. As a tenured geography professor at Laney College, Mark has engage hundreds of students in citizen science by testing water quality of Lake Merritt and involving students in conservation projects like restoring wetlands, vegetation near the college, and working with students at Saucil Creek. He is a specialist in double-crested cormorants that nest on the Bay Bridge. He was highlighted for his work actually nationally on creating, where he designed these platforms that actually saved folks and now has built them on the Berkeley Pier as well. He is an award-winning author of over 20 books, and for 2 decades, he has carried the torch for local environmental stewardship in Oakland. We are thrilled and honored. He is being honored, and we're really proud to have him in the Laney community. And in that same spirit, I'll just end with the fact that Laney has launched a Keep Laney Clean campaign based on feedback from a Flex Day workshop that I led in January. Faculty and classified shared with me some things that they hear about our community, good and bad, and one of the trending topics was that Laney is often seen as sort of dirty in some ways. We have an amazing team of custodians and ground crews that are working tirelessly to keep the campus clean, but there is a reality of the fact that the cleanliness of our campus the responsibility belongs to more than just them, right? It's a lot of trash that doesn't need to be there, of folks who are just not taking responsibility for their own things. We want our campus to be a place our staff and students are proud of. So I began to think, what could I do? How could I change? This is like my home, right? And what is my responsibility? And so in the confines of my office, I designed and launched a Keep Laney Clean campaign and highlighted it through one of my online vlogs and designed this poster that will soon adorn the campus with the goal of changing the narrative about our campus community and working together to show the campus the love and respect it deserves. Lawn signs and posters are going to be distributed soon. I hope you all join me, and thank you. That's my report from Laney College.
Thank you for all of those reports. Thank you, Chancellor, and thank you, college presidents. We will now, if you recall, I've moved item 5.1, which is a presentation of program manager services from the ACON team, and I will turn it over to VC Sata. 5.1 and 5.2.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening, Board of Trustees members, colleagues, and members of the audience. I'm here to introduce to you the team that has been selected by our selection committee, the AECOM team. I wanted to briefly just set some context. AECOM is going to be hired this evening, or you will consider hopefully hiring them, to be our program managers. And the distinction between program management services versus construction and project management services is that AECOM will be providing a lot of the program controls and financial controls for the length of the bond. And what we plan to do is bring before you a set of project and construction managers, hopefully by the next board meeting, who will be housed at each of the campus sites. So in this way, we are able to sort of spread the work around to more firms. But I wanted to start here with AECOM. And then the second thing I wanted to share with you was the process. We did have a selection committee that did a first screen review, which was a paper screen. The three most qualified firms were then interviewed, and AECOM came out on top. So I'll stop there. I'd like to introduce to you Keith Kajia, who is the program executive who will be leading the team, and he can explain to you the role that they'll play as well as the team members that he'll work with. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me okay? Well, President Bonilla, trustees, Chancellor, cabinet, presidents, faculty, the community that's here. It's really my privilege to be here this evening to talk to you, to talk about program management and some of absolutely the exciting things that are about to happen to transform the campuses throughout Peralta. You know, today's exciting to me because it's not just a relationship that we're starting tonight. It's a real partnership. It's where we're going to really come together and really come together to really transform campuses so that the students and the communities that Peralta serves have best-in-class facilities. Let's talk a little bit about AECOM. The firm may not be so familiar to you. AECOM is a large, well, there's a lot of light action going on here. A large multidisciplinary engineering firm, but really more importantly, what do we do in California? What's our experience in California, specifically in the education market? Well, over the last 50 years, we've been working in program management capacities across the state. And through that time, we've delivered over $40 billion of projects. We're ranked #1 by Engineering News Record in program management. That's what you're hiring us for. That's my specialty. Engineering News Record is a national publication that ranks all the firms that do program management throughout the country, and AECOM has been ranked #1, not just in 2019, but for the past 3 years. And what does that mean to you? That means you're getting best quality program management, advantages of lessons learned, the best systems that we can provide, because that's really one of our core businesses of what we do. If we look at all these districts here, I personally have been involved in over half of these programs, either in a similar role as an executive or a program manager. Indeed, I spent my entire professional career with AECOM. I'm now in my 35th year with the firm. So I'm really proud of that accomplishment, but more importantly, what I'm about to do to help transform your campuses. As far as the team that we've assembled for you, first of all, AECOM is based here in Oakland. Our main office, really our flagship office for the Bay Area, is at the Kaiser Center overlooking Lake Merritt. It's about a little over a mile from here. We've teamed with two local SBE firms, 360 Total Concept and JTech, and also another small business enterprise, BRJ and Associates. The important thing is that these firms are all here locally, and it was important to make sure that we kept a lot of the money local and that we dedicated a lot of the money to local small businesses. So overall, our contract has a 45%, up to a 45% commitment for small businesses through our total contract value. But we know that at the end of the day, it's really the people that make the difference. It's the people that are going to work side by side with you, hand and foot with you, if you will. And that's the team that I brought here today. You can kind of come up a little bit more there. I don't know why they're standing so far behind me. So let me briefly describe and talk to you a little about their role. I would let them speak a little bit, but then we'll be here forever, absolutely forever. So I will do it. Sharon Serrano is going to be your design and planning manager. She spent her entire professional career up here in Northern California. One of her key focuses will be to oversee kind of the designs for all the projects moving forward. It includes the development of design standards, as well as making sure that we really establish a good rapport and relationship with the division of the state architect, which is the agency that actually approves all your drawings. Sharon has shepherded many projects through DSA, and she's going to really leverage those relationships to really make sure that we streamline that approval process, because that's important, because we want to get shovels in the ground as quickly as possible and cut that bureaucratic tape on the front end of a project during design. Next to her is Ray Leving. He's going to be your financial and contract manager. Ray and I have worked together for, wow, it's like over 10 years at least, on multiple capital bond programs for community colleges. What's unique about Ray is that he's a certified public accountant. And so he's going to be putting in some of those fiscal accountability processes and procedures, streamlining payments. He's going to be working on the contracting process, coordinating for purchase orders and timely payments to vendors. All those are things that he and I have done together collectively on other capital programs. He's going to do that for you. He's really going to leverage his, frankly, background as a CPA to make sure that all of our reports and all of our systems, all of our accounting for our finances are audit ready. We are always going to be audit ready and be able to stand up to fiscal audits. Next to him is Bonnie James. He's the principal of BRJ and Associates. I have him in this Jumpstart Team, PMO Jumpstart Team box in the blue there. You know, I thought it was really important to make sure that on the PMO side, the program management organization side, that we had representation from someone who's kind of sat on the other side of the table, if you will. Someone who's been a college president, someone who's been a vice chancellor before, someone who could actually pull that information into the PMO, and as we establish processes and procedures, we're certainly engaging all of you to make sure that those are best practices. But we have now the advantage of someone who's actually successfully delivered capital programs in those same roles. Frankly, honestly, Bonnie and Ray have also worked at districts that have gone under the scrutiny of FICMAT review. In fact, I have as well. And we put in systems in place to make sure that we could stand up to the extra scrutiny that requires of the district and the capital program. On the far end there is Shonda Scott. She's the principal from 360 Total Concepts. She's going to be overseeing our labor compliance, our community and business outreach. So these are those critical pieces that allow us to make sure that we're engaging the local business community to make sure they're getting their fair share of the capital program, but also keeping the community informed in our relationship with labor, frankly. You know, if we advance with a PLA going forward, she's got point-on experience in the Oakland community. And Shonda, you're like a second-generation Oakland business owner that's been here in the community. So excited to have her as part of the team. So through my experience for program management, you know, what is it at the core that we do? Why do you want to hire a program manager? Well, for me, there's 3 keys to program management. The first is to really kind of develop a highly collaborative team approach. Culture is important. It's important to make sure that the projects are priority 1. And that goes not only for my team that's here working with Lee's staff, but also at the college level, campus level, and the consultants that we will actually hire, the architects, the contractors, the construction managers, the design builders that we bring on board. It's important that we all work collectively together so that we can really efficiently and effectively deliver projects. How do we do that? We do that with transparency. We do that with setting standards and holding people accountable. If there's one thing that we do more than anything else, it's holding everybody accountable for what you're hiring them to do. Next, looking at the strategic planning for the operational life cycle, it's really, again, that blend of taking your educational master plans, how you've defined of how you want to deliver education, and meshing that with facilities master plans, those environments that you're going to do that in. And it's really the blending of that together that's critically important, right? So that you can make sure that you're delivering the best education possible to the students of Peralta. And finally, looking at the optimized technology and solutions and different procedures. I think at the core, some of the first things we're going to do in the first 90 days is really establish those across the board. Put systems in place that provide transparency of how we're spending money, that they're open book, that show how we're going to allocate funds to different campuses, how we're actually prioritizing projects to the different colleges. These are all important things. We're putting technology in place, again, from leveraging our experience as the #1 ranked program manager to actually put tools that are proven, and we can roll those tools up quickly. In fact, that's one of Ray's specialties, actually. It's really actually also based on a return on investment approach. So it's not buying software just to have software, right? It's buying proven tools that we have developed and implemented on other capital programs. These are a number of areas of focus. Not going to dive into too many of these outside of, I think the last two, the number 4 and number 5, are some of the most important ones related to any kind of district that's going under kind of a FCMAT review, a FCMAT analysis, is really establishing state-of-the-art fiscal controls and payment processing, making sure that we're really luring the best-in-class firms to us, whether they're consultants or contractors, because frankly, we can pay them timely. Right? That's critically important. You want to attract the best of the best, and one of the best ways to do that is to pay them promptly and really fast. Audit sensitive and responsive PMO solutions, that really ties to our overall processes and procedures of how we'll implement them. We have training programs of how we're going to train every level of staff that's involved in the capital programs, and we're going to have really open engagement with everybody in the concept of shared governance, because we want to make sure we're listening to all the voices and everyone that's actually going to have a participatory role related to prioritizing projects. If you look at our scope, there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of colors, and I think you notice there's a lot of colors in my slides previously. The colors aren't really aligning to specific things on the other slides, honestly. That's kind of my graphics people showing off their color ability and probably trying to use a lot of ink. But the colors on this particular slide are banding items together in a very specific way. So if we look at the blue items, those are all real strong front-end process procedure things. That's really the core value of what we're going to be establishing the first 90 days. All those processes, procedures, how we're going to make collective decisions together, how we're going to actually flow processes through, how we're going to pay things, how we're going to issue contracts. The green section for construction management coordination, that's where we're going to be coordinating with those design and construction project managers that are actually assigned to each campus. It's important that they roll up to us so we have visibility, again, transparency of what they're doing on the campuses. It's also important that from an overall programmatic view that we're controlling budget that's going out to each campus. The yellow piece there is outreach and labor compliance. That's the piece that Shonda will be responsible for. Again, making sure that we're making sure that the small local businesses are getting their fair share of the bond money, because the people that live in your community are the ones that pass the bond. It's not lost upon us the commitment that means of what has to happen there, and also dealing with labor. The purple items there are more ongoing kind of quality oversight types of things. So it's our quality assurance, quality control plan. It's risk management. How do we manage risk going forward? It's one of our core duties to make sure we're mitigating risk, that we're planning for when things happen, because things happen during construction, but we plan for that. And so we minimize surprises to us, but we also plan that there will be surprises, and we cover them with contingencies and proper planning. And finally, the last two are largely administrative, the orange section there. Those are, again, processing contracts, how we're reporting status, how we're reporting progress and paying people. That's really the reporting engine of, I imagine Lee will be asking me to come back and present to you of how we're doing. That's really the systems that'll be driving some of that information. So with that, that's my presentation. Happy to take any questions if anyone has questions or any comments.
Thank you for that presentation. And I will open up for comments. And so I have Trustee Brown to my far right.
Thank you very much for that report. Through the Chancellor, we have been working on the internal controls for as long as I could remember being a trustee, and that would be about 7 years. And one of the things that we have been struggling with is that we have to have more trained professionals that are dealing with our contracts and they're dealing with the finance, and we need the technology to address that. And what I was saying is that we've been working, struggling on bringing the contracts up to an appropriate level, our contract processing and management for the 7 years I've been here. And one of the things that we have discovered that we needed, and I'm glad to see Bonnie James on the team because Bonnie knows very specifically what our struggles are, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. Regarding internal controls and contract management and getting our payments processed on time. And it's really having the financial, the business proprietary systems to run the programs that would be able to generate the financial reports that we need and process the checks and do the accounting appropriately, as well as the trained staff to do that. And so my question is, with all the brilliance that we have from our new proposed construction program manager, we have to have the infrastructure to operate. And so if I could just get an idea of how we're going to get that infrastructure in place in time for our construction management program to run, and then also with regard to our community outreach and engagement, we still don't have committees that allow a community voice, so we're rather insular or siloed off in terms of the input that we get. It's all within Peralta, not outside in our community, and how would we be able to address that issue as well?
Okay, thank you, Trustee Brown. Yes, there are a number of things that I'd like to say in response to that, and then I'll invite members of the team to, help me out with any additional information. The first thing is you're absolutely right. We are in the process now of addressing a lot of the issues around the processes in terms of being able to process the contracts, get our bills paid on time, those types of things. The consequence is that we have Mr. Steve Crow, who's working in finance with us and helping us look at, some of our practices. And during his very first week, General Counsel Warden has been working with us with regard to the processing of contracts, putting it to the technological system in order for us to be able to get things rolling, as well as Vice Chancellor Sata has been working with us in terms of redefining and improving the contracts process for facilities that come out of facilities, different than some of the other contracts that we do. So all of that is work that has been going on, and that we are doing, and we are very much so in the position of just about being able to launch those things. We are in a testing phase now in terms of connecting it with the technology. So we're very much in the position of being able to launch those things. The other thing is we're looking at processes because some of the processes that are related to paying the bills on time, et cetera, have been perhaps some interpretation of the administration procedures and interpretation of board policies. So we're smoothing out some of those things. For an example, if a board approved a contract and it ended in June 30th, and somebody sent us the bill in July or August, then the understanding of the process was that we had to come back and ask the board to ratify the contract again, just to give us the time to pay the bill. We're changing those kinds of processes, so we are able to make much more timely payments in terms of a vendor. What the gentleman said really resonated with me because we see the consequences of if we don't pay our bills on time, then people are less interested in working with us. I know that would be the case in any of our lives, and so we're addressing those things. And then I'll ask Mr. Crow and GC Warden if they wanted to add anything to what I said. Let me start with Steve Crow.
Well, thank you for the question. So I have in front of me the new merged, updated organization chart, and it speaks to about 6 vacancies of which we were rapidly filling. So to your point about the internal controls, we have a financial analyst and funding manager, new position, and that will vacate potentially a capital outlay coordinator that will be working with the bond program. We have a principal budget and finance analysis that works with the budgets to execute those budgets, and then a district accounting technician that needs to be filled, an accounts payable supervisor, which is important to oversee all the work of accounts payable, an internal auditor we're in process of hiring, and that's very important to train all staff to be consistent with our practices and policies. And then, of course, very important, the vacant Vice Chancellor of Finance and Administration, and we recently filled the Director of Purchasing, which is helping us with the contract coordination.
And all of those, as we are pulling together the organization in relationship to the recommendations that came from FitMat, all of those that we just called out were a matter of moving things around to where it would be essentially budget neutral, but we would have the controls in place that we needed. And then GC Warden, do you want to add anything?
So with regard to processing of contracts from a legal standpoint, excuse me, looking at doing that in a budget neutral way, so leveraging existing technologies that the district has already purchased and is utilizing. And what we're doing is expanding the services so that it applies to legal in the sense of contracts. So for example, we know that there is a electronic system and software that processes requests to the IT department. And so some of that technology can be used to process contracts as well. So rather than going out and purchasing new software, we're simply expanding the usage of software that we already have and for which we have the licenses to use in such a manner. And so working with VC Lam and also VC SATA on that.
And what you see as a result of that is us being able to mitigate and put in place the infrastructure you're talking about, and being able to mitigate some of the issues where paper contracts go from desk to desk to desk. And then when we do an analysis of it, finding out that it took 4 months for it to travel up to 580. Now we're talking about using a technological queue that allows it to be able to move, and then setting up the processes. So with the combined standards of excellence that said things don't sit in your queue, don't sit on your desk more than 2 days, it now changes that 4-month process into about a week.
Thanks. And my second question was, how do we get the community voice? All of our committees are internal Peralta committees. They're not resident of the district committees. How do we get the voice? Because that is going to tell us how we're doing with the people that gave us the $800 million bond or the $200 million bond. And actually, I also was going to ask, have we standardized our contract forms for amendments and for our professional services contracts and our construction contracts? Because that was another issue that would take up a lot of time in agenda review, because some of them were varied and not necessarily appropriate, and we would have to start over.
So in terms of standardizing contracts, that is one of the things we've looked at. The issue is, for some topics, they're too complicated to have a simple boilerplate, but there are definitely opportunities where we can have standard terms built into those contracts, and so you have less time needed to review the contract, because you're not looking at them de novo from the beginning to end, and there should be standard terms and conditions that parties who are entering into a contract with the district should be obligated to sign. And so we are looking at that both in the sense of from a small contract where, it's a sole proprietor who is a vendor, all the way through looking at, very complex contracts involving DS and construction contracts. So that is top of mind, definitely looking to increase efficiencies within how legal is processing paperwork, both in from both points of increasing efficiency in terms of timing, but then also in terms of financial expenditure. If we are able to move the contracts through faster, we avoid issues such as any penalties that may arise for delay, but also moving the contracts through faster because we have standardized language means that we're relying less on outside counsel to draft contracts, and so we should see cost savings by approaching it that way as well.
I'd like to build on what our chief counsel said. We also have purchased with regard to specific construction contracts, as there are, as you know, many different types of contracts. We have a professional services short form and a professional services long form template, and we have a small construction project short form and a large construction form contract. We are actually scheduling training with the authors of that contract, which is DWK, at the end of February. We were waiting to begin that training until the program manager team joined us because we didn't want to hold the training over and over and over. So our staff and program managers, and if we can get the construction managers lined up, we'll have training for all of those groups over this course of a few weeks. We thought we would do it in 2 to 4 hour increments because it will take some time. With regard to the community, we are more than ready and willing to do roadshows into the community. We would love to have some feedback about the appropriate venues. We have a presentation already, or I have a presentation already put together, which is kind of the rollout of the 5 projects that we've already hired architects for, and kind of gives a status of the first wave of projects. So we are, we can tune that up, of course, and make it a little bit nicer, but we are ready to go out and share with what we're doing with the completion of Measure A and the beginning of Measure G, and as well receive some feedback. We've actually already shown this to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, so that some community members have already begun to, been informed.
Great, thank you very much. And we do have a PLA, so I'm glad to see that we have the labor compliance piece, not just for the DIR requirements, but also for our PLA policy compliance.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Trustee Reese? And then I have Trustee Handy in the queue.
Through the Chancellor to ACOM, whoever wants to answer this, a few things. Thank you for the presentation, and you either researched the board very, very well, and or you are our ideal management company because you've addressed a lot of our concerns, or both, right? So thank you so much, right? I have 4 questions, if you don't mind, or I have 4 questions, if you don't mind. Given the fact that you've worked with colleges and districts before that have had FICMAT reports done, you are used to some of the problems that were discussed by Trustee Brown in terms of our internal controls and such. So as you talked about the fiscal accounting and being very, very prepared for strong audits, as an example, is there a structure over our structure that could be put in place that you've done with other districts where there's been an overlay so that you are ensuring that what it is you want to do in terms of getting those contracts paid, getting the fiscal accounting done correctly and properly, and ensuring that the internal controls are there? You were sounding like in the presentation that was something that you do very well. And so I guess the question that I had was, is there a meta structure over the district structure that you are potentially recommending? So that's question number 1, but it looks like Lee's about to answer that.
If you don't mind, I'll give the high-level answer, if that's okay, Chancellor. And then I will ask Keith to follow up with specifics. What we've created or plan to create is essentially a parallel structure, is the way I would describe it, where AECOM is responsible for all issues related to the bond, both on the purchasing side as well as the accounts payable side. And there will be a handoff, of course, with district staff because it still the POs have to be issued by the district, right? The bills have to be paid by the district. But they'll essentially be processing and assisting the district with all of those tasks. And in fact, this board approved a structure like that back, and I believe it was in September of July of 2018, which did suggest a parallel structure, and so we have stayed true to that. And I'll stop there. If you'd like more detail, Keith can answer.
Is there anything that you'd like to add, or does that wrap it up a bit?
I think that's pretty much it. I think the technology I was referring to was we call it our program management information system. It's that overlay system, if you will, because again, the bond program is this set finite term, right, for us to complete the projects. Right. It's not something that you necessarily want to invest long-term for the district operationally. So we put that in place for the length of the capital program. And when we've executed the work and delivered the work, then it's archived, so you have access to the data, but you don't need to maintain that system unless you have another bond program moving forward, right? So that's why it's kind of this immediate piece. But related to our FICMAT district experience, it's always important for us to come in and we triage actually kind of what's really going on related to the issues you're having. And I think we've seen them before in other places actually related to the length of time it's taking a contract to be processed, or the gaps related to processing a purchase order so a payment can be made, those types of things. And so sometimes when we first come in, we spend that almost first 30 days triaging and just figuring out how to get everything that's in the backlog out. Right. While concurrently we're putting these systems in place to handle the overall program, but we need to immediately, if you're backlogged on issuing contracts or issuing payments, the first priority is to get those out, right? So we can catch everybody up.
Great, okay. And then my three other questions. The three other questions are, given the scope of your projects and given the amount of the bond, our contract is for 2 years. Is that typically about right? And I know that we could extend it for another year and then another year after that, but 2 years usually, is that typical?
It's a 3-year contract, base contract, which has 2 performance-based 1-year extensions, so it could be up to 5 years. We're asking for the board to consider approval of all 5 years, both in the fee and the structure, but the base contract ends in 3.
Right.
And if for some reason we have a change in direction for one reason or another, we have no reason to, we could actually just stop at 3 years.
And then lastly, the reports. How often will the reports be coming? And are they being made by you, ACOM?
Well, we're hiring ACOM and the software that comes along with it, as well as the people to prepare those reports. We do plan on preparing reports as often as we need to for the CBOC, which is once per quarter. If the board so desires more frequent reports, we can certainly, sit down and work with you on kind of what level of information you like. Obviously it can be high level, it can be lower level. The software will accommodate everything from project budgets, and there'll be, every invoice coming in and out. So we'll have a pretty up-to-the-minute snapshot if possible. But Keith, you want to talk about that?
Well, I think that the system we refer to, the PMIS system, has the ability to do dashboards. So these high-level dashboards. So if there are particular areas of interest, whether you're a trustee or a president of one of the campuses, you can actually have access to a certain level or type of information that you might be interested in. We can customize kind of a high-level roll-up, and it's based on the active data that's constantly being refreshed. So it's actually a live flash of what's going on at the time, basically. Because I think at the end of the day, I said the most important thing for us is accountability. And the only way to have accountability is to have transparency in what's happening. And that's what we're all about, basically. And that's what you get when you hire the top tier program management firm, right? Is that's what we're going to deliver.
Great, thank you.
Trustee Handy.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to see that this is moving, but some questions are popping up for me. One, though, as I'm looking through all of these, I'm actually seeing redundancy. Now, before we got this bond, we had a staff that worked to get this bond and a community that worked to get this bond. And we have built the Barbara Lee building. We've done all of these things all over the place. This is the new project, but what I'm seeing in program and design are we taking away positions from existing staff for this consultancy group, because I'm seeing redundancy here. And you cannot say that our staff has not been doing a great job, because you see our buildings and things there. So is this group working specifically with the bond going forward, and our staff that's already been here holding the place? Are they continuing with our other projects that are going on, or is a consultancy group going to be replacing our staff members here?
Thank you for that question, Trustee Handy. And it's a really great question, and of course one that has caused a lot of questioning in our own department. And the answer to the question is no. This group is going to be running in parallel to the existing staff. We've been working hard internally on a reorganization which preserves all of the existing staff and in some cases allows for some growth. We are creating a couple of new positions that are internal that will allow that sort of interaction that we need to have between the campuses and the program team. I think it's fair to say that the program team and the construction managers that you see at each campus will be dedicated solely to the bond, but there are a lot of other tasks that we do just operationally. And those who have worked in the past on the bond will continue to be involved both in Measure A and then as we roll over to Measure G.
Okay, and then I did have another question. I think it just kind of slipped from me. Did you have a question, Bill? No. Okay, come back to it. The other part, yes. Again, is that we brought up the contract, which was 3 years and then plus 2, and I know that the industry standard is generally 3, and even for personal employees, only get a 2-year contract at a time. I've been here long enough to know that things change. We don't have a director of facilities at this current time. That's a position that's open, so things will change. What I want is to hear the reassurances for our community that if we okay this contract at 5 years, or if we do it at 3 years with an option for the other 2 years, that we're doing our due diligence and not making a commitment when we don't have the full staff at this time to honestly say what is going to happen. And I expect great things from all of you, but that's not my job. My job is to make sure that we have crossed our T's and dotted our I's. So I just want to hear what reassurances are built in for our community that this contract, which is not in the industry standard, is warranted for that 5 years, and the protections that we have in for the district in case there are any changes.
I think the way I would answer that is to say that it's a 5-year contract because that is the limit that you can have on a public contract as we understand it from our legal team. And so at the end if we choose to go to the full 5 years, at the end of that period, we would certainly do another public RFP, which is how we got to this point today. The design of the contract, if you will, was similar to big, large, long-scale contracts that we've had before you recently, including things like the elevator contract and so forth. And the way we structured it was, again, to have a 3-year base contract with the opportunity to pull out with no harm to either party, should we choose to. And boards have reasons to do that. They can be everything from, frankly, performance-based issues to changes in the needs of the community to even the desire to build an internal team to sort of speak to one of your concerns. But what this does right now is it allows us to get started quickly with a professional team that knows the business, and they are truly experienced and have the people who, the horsepower to get us going. And frankly, to also catch up on some of the areas in Measure A that we've been dragging a little bit on. So I think what I'd like to say is we are here to assure you that should for any reason we need to stop at the end of 3 years, to no harm to the district, we can certainly do that. There's also a termination clause, of course, in the contract based on performance. So if for some reason, which I don't expect, but if there were a problem within the first 3 years, we can also, they have to cure the issue within 10 days.
Thank you. I think that we needed to make that clear and transparent as well for the public. So my last question is this. Under Shonda Scott, your part is the community. Now, I wasn't quite clear with what I was hearing, because I know that we have our own commitment to small local minority participation in contracts. And it's been a great concern of mine that we make sure as we're moving forward that the community that is this community that is paying for this bond, our people, and have an opportunity to work in this project. Now, I'm understanding your part is going to be community outreach as well as also informing the community. Is it going to be like informing them of how to bid for Peralta, or is that going to be separate from what we normally do? Who is handling that piece, or are you working on that community outreach in conjunction with the policies of the district for us? Because we're constantly getting the calls from our small local minority businesses, and we want to make sure, I want to make sure, I live in this community, and I don't want to get beat up anymore. For 17 years, we've been really, really fighting hard, and the community really came out hard for us, even though we were getting opposition from places where we shouldn't be. Our community said, yes, we are going to fund this for you, but I just need to know who and what is going to take the responsibility to make sure that the spaces are there for those who are qualified to apply? Is that something we're doing, or is it something we're doing in conjunction? Has that been worked out yet? Because that is something that we really want to kind of see, our community wants to see in writing.
Why don't I go ahead and start with the first part of the answer and then invite Keith and perhaps Shonda to get into more detail if you'd like. But what I would say is two things. One is that we've just hired a new dynamic and very experienced purchasing director, Brian Slaughter. And Brian has committed himself to helping and working directly with Shonda on developing a small and local business outreach program, which will include everything from finding ways to get into the community to invite those vendors to participate, to also doing training so that those vendors who are smaller and just getting started can learn how to fill out the appropriate forms, for example, or perhaps to even join as a subconsultant to a larger team. So those are two things that are already happening. Another thing that's happening is under Steve Crow's watch, and again, an idea brought by Brian Slaughter, was to create a system called CUPCA, which allows us to go to a little bit higher threshold for bidding. And what that also does is it has a pre-qualification process for small and local businesses so that they're pre-qualified for work. And when we have many of these smaller projects, because there will be a number of small projects that aren't even particularly articulated in the bond spending plan, those smaller vendors will be pre-qualified and then allowed and able to participate without having to go through the sort of same bid process that the bigger vendors.
Okay, so and my question to that is, what about those who are already on the pre-qualified list? What are happening to the people who are prior to us passing this bond a year ago? Again, we did have pre-qualification list. And what is happening to those people? Are they going to be contacted? Are they going to lose their position that they have on that list? Are they going to start all over again? Or is it going to be a different piece for the bond and and then something for the existing projects that were all going on? You may not have all those answers tonight, but those are the questions that the community wants to know. And those are the things that I would like, and I'm sure the board, to hear back from you when we have that worked out. The one thing I don't want to hear is that we're going to figure it out on the small, local, minority. But I don't want to have my head hanging low again while I see our local vendors working all over the place but not able to work at Peralta. I really want to make sure that you all understand that it is an absolute priority that the people who are paying the taxes and giving us the money have a seat at the table and not just be on the menu.
If you don't mind, I can answer some of those questions, and then we'll get back to you on others that I can't answer. But the first one is with CUPCA. There is actually an obligation to pre-qualify every 2 years, and it is also structured so that it's based on the trades. So it could be an HVAC contractor, electrical contractor, somebody who does earthwork, right? And so we will be having to refresh the list. So anybody who's currently on the list will have to reapply. But once they're pre-qualified, they're qualified for a period of 2 years. So the mechanics and the details of how we get into the community and how we do that outreach, I'm going to turn over to our experts. But those are the rules that come along with the CUPCA standard.
And I can have Shonda come up too a little bit. I think it's important for us to kind of realize that everything that we do as a program manager kind of folds in with also what the district is doing in policies and procedures, right? So we're rowing together, if you will. So as you're changing those and you're refreshing those, we're in alignment with those as well. And again, we're kind of that extra flex up front, right, to provide those additional resources, whether you provide them yourselves later or not. We're adopting district standards, or we're looking at them and we're providing feedback for the capital bond program, maybe how they should or could be tweaked to really address whatever those needs are. But I think the reason that we identified Shonda was because she knew the Oakland community really well. She had a proven track record of engaging businesses and labor, frankly, to really engage in the capital program. And it was really my vision that she would really partner with purchasing, with the different departments, with the outreach communications department as well. And so we're not overlapping things. We're that extra push, if you will, to get things over the hump, so that if we need to have, previously you were doing once a quarter outreach events, for example, if you were doing that. Now we're doing them more often, and we're doing them to neighborhood associations. Every program I've been a part of, we spent an equal amount of time out in evenings reaching out to the community to let them know what's happening, what the opportunities for businesses are, what the opportunities for jobs are as well. And Shonda, if you want to add anything to that? 'Cause
Well, first, I'd like to just thank the Board of Trustees for your commitment to the community. As an Oakland native and, like you said, a second-generation business owner here in Oakland, it was important to me to be part of this team, that's what we would bring. My team, not just me, my team acts as an extension to your team to help them get a broader reach into the community. In fact, in our presentation, I said personally, it's part of my role in the presentation, that we were going to meet with the community first early on in the project, and before we go out to anything with the design, it's going to be a community process because we know that's the best practice. We know the Peralta community is well connected. I mean, we're very involved and engaged, and it's important not only for us to engage the Peralta community, but all the stakeholders, internal and external. We count that as small business, we count that as union, we count that as faculty, we count that as students, we count that as a whole collective community, and we plan to come together with those groups initially to talk to them, to get their input before we go out and say, this is what we're going to present to you, but work with the Peralta Community College and bring our expertise to the table. We have a vast database with small local businesses because that's what the work that we've been doing for over a decade. And with the role that I have in the community and with my company, we have I'm sorry, going in now, so it's that part, is it? You can hear me? Okay. Connecting those sectors is important to us, and that's what we feel like we're coming into this role if you so approve us. And that's the expertise that we bring, and we have a proven track record for that. And it is important to us because I'm very clear that the bond money is voter-approved bond money. And the best way to continue to have the community support is to show how you're reinvesting their dollars back into the local community. And as the programs continue to need local money, that relationship has to be stronger and better. And there's all kind of ways that we can actually even show the community visually how you're spending the money and some of the projects that are coming available. So I'm excited to see that the trustees are that committed to seeing this role for the community as well, because like you, I've heard a lot of contractors that have worked all over, and they're not working in areas where their money is being spent, but they're not being contracted back locally. That's why with AECOM, I was happy to hear that we're based out of their local Oakland office. They have a local office. They're all around the world, but they have their main office in Northern California is local. So that was important to us as well. Thank you. I hope that answered. And thank you both, even Trustee Brown, for the question about the outreach as well.
Trustee Brown?
Yeah, I was just, I appreciate the planning and the engagement with the trustees. And one of the things I wanted to bring up was that we had not adopted CUPCA in the past because we didn't have the internal controls to support it. In order to do CUPCA, you have to make sure that you have the processes and the efficacy and the efficiency so that when you are letting contracts, that they actually follow the process you had planned. And we were having very trouble with the basic public contracting tenets under that statutory framework, and that's why we hadn't adopted CUPCA. So I imagine that it'll be presented to the board soon to adopt CUPCA, which will then be predicated upon how our internal controls and how our technology is actually set up, because it would be aspirational for us to say we're going to do that if we don't have the means to actually have it occur, which Trustee Bonilla and I have spent hours and hours going over contracts and having to look for compliance issues, which we're not supposed to do at Trustees just because we have labor experience or we have legal experience. We were applying it in a way that we had not intended to or hadn't desired to, but we didn't have the structures in terms of our technology or our the training that we needed. So stuff was coming to us in a manner that wasn't consistent and wasn't always appropriately designed. So that's why I think some of the trustees have concerns regarding the process and regarding the pre-qual, because we had the pre-qual, but it was the basic pre-qual that is in the code. It wasn't the CUPCA pre-qual, because we couldn't get to CUPCA because we couldn't get out of the door, basically, is what our situation was. So I'm glad to hear that that's being addressed, but those are all policy issues, and when those issues come to us in connection with rolling this out, we're going to want to see that it'll be resting upon a structure that'll actually be able to support it, because that was our reservation in the past. And then with regard to the implementation of the programs that we have under the local vendor policy, there's also good faith effort compliance, and there's things that are going to need paperwork support. And part of our issue with rolling out our local vendor or being able to make sure our local vendor policy was appropriately implemented was another infrastructure thing. So a lot of the work that you're going to do means that we have to get our act together for you to be able to do the work that you want to do, which is why my initial question was, what foundation will it rest upon? Because that's what we've been grappling with, and that's why in 2018 we did have a restructuring, because we have been pushing towards this for, I think, as long as I could remember, we've been addressing the contractual issues and the infrastructure issues. So part of this is that we, as trustees, are responsible for policy. We're responsible to our community, and we have to make sure, and I guess I say this not just for AECOM, but for you to be patient with us in the terms of the infrastructure has to come first, because those are policy issues. 60% of what is in your presentation suggests that our policies are in compliance with that. We don't even have the CUPCA, and we have a policy that we have not been, we've been going back and forth with our PLA, making sure that our PLA, having to have it on the agenda, that it's PLA and that it was bid as PLA, having to double check from the dais, which we don't really want to do, but that's how we were existing. So part of what we're going to do is have to do our own internal huddle, which I know the Chancellor and our GC and Steve Crow, who used to have jet black hair, all have. They haven't, and Lee, you too, man. You were. So I know you guys are going to do all, but when it'll have to come. We'll have to do another pass at this to implement the policy that's going to put the jet fuel in the engine. And so we're going to be, maybe we should do a study where we see all the integrating pieces, but it has to rest on something, and that's what we've been trying to get to. And Bonnie James is nodding and saying, yeah, I had jet black hair too. But that's what it was. Bonnie did a lot of the footwork. He did a lot of the groundwork to show us where the thing, before FICMAT came, we had Bonnie James, the pre-FICMAT prophet we had. So I'll turn off my mic now before I embarrass everyone. But what I'm saying is that there's a lot of policy that goes into being able to make good on our part of the contract with the voters that gave us the bond. And those policy issues we're going to have to integrate with our infrastructure in order to, you guys have the green light to do these things. And that being said, one of the reasons I think my colleagues were talking about the term of the contract is that we have a lot of work that we have to do in order to lay this program on top of a solid foundation. And part of even though contracts have words to unwind, they're a beast to unwind if there's an unwinding necessary or if there's a slowdown necessary, because once you approve the contract, you hire people who have jobs and who have mobilized and who are working on this stuff. And I think that's the reason my colleagues were saying, can we do the 2-year and then see how we do in 2 years and then go forward, because there's a no-cause contract or no-cause termination always has costs associated with it, because you have the demob cost and because people are already working. And so I think that is why my colleagues were saying, can we get started first, do the 2 years, and then look at it as we're going and see if we want to go further, because nothing is unwound without cost. Otherwise, I don't know, those of us with JDs wouldn't be working, right, Delar? So all I'm saying is that could we consider that, and could you tell us how we would start with a 2-year and then do a check before we do the 5-year?
Can I, just as a point of order, that sounds like an amendment on the next item, which is on the vote for the actual item. This is the presentation. So I'd like to just clarify that piece. Are you okay with that, Trustee Brown?
Well, actually, I'm just asking the question. They could, if they want to put it over to the second part, that's fine. But I think that's what I'm hearing coming back from here, and that's what I'm thinking. We don't want to make promises we're not.
Chancellor, if you need a moment to caucus about that issue with GC Warden, that's fine, or we can just hold it. I'd like to stay focused on the presentation.
I was going to say I can talk to the specific things that were right before that statement that you made, and then when we get to the next item, then we can address that.
Besides everybody's hair color before they start
Besides
working on this
everybody's hair
project. Yeah,
colors.
we're going to delete that out of the
So the first thing that I would like to say, Madam President and members of the board, is that when we hear the questions from the board members and when we have the conversations about it as you raise different issues, we completely understand the context in which you ask. We understand that there is history that you've experienced. We understand that you have institutional memories that many of us don't have because we walked in 30, 60, 90 days ago. And what I want to bring to your, just highlight or emphasize for you is that Peralta Community College District is in a very different position than it was, let's say, just 4 months ago. One, you have, or 6 months ago, you have a dynamite team in place that is in leadership that has a proven track record of success in that leadership. And you have that, though it's interim, you have that in VC Sata as he brings all of his experience and expertise to bear that many institutions fight to get, and we get to have access to. You have a new chancellor that has brought a certain leadership framework and a leadership style to the district. We have the new interim GC and chief of staff that has earned his entire check for the month in the first 3 days he was at work, I can guarantee you. The other thing you have is you have the momentum and the leverage of the FitMac analysis and the CBT recommendations. And when I say that we have done many things, addressed many of the issues, dealt with a lot of the processes, looked at a lot of the technology, changed those processes, we recognize that we have to have our act together before we come to you to say, yes, we recommend that you adopt CUPCA. We realize that we have to bring in those confluence of factors that are going to play in that, and that includes the infrastructure, the processes, and the controls, and the people to make that happen. So as fast as we can, we have been running in terms of filling those positions, changes those processes, implementing the technology, getting the right expertise in the room, at the same time trying to pull together the work on some of the issues that you've raised around community engagement, minority business, small business, women-owned businesses coming to putting the community back in the community colleges, renegotiate the PLA. All of those things are things that we're pulling together as we bring forth those recommendations to you. And then I'll speak to the issue, the other issue at the next item when we talk about the term of the contract. But I just want to remind the board and the members that are listening that this is a very different Peralta reality right now than you were in 6 months ago.
Thank you for that, Chancellor. And thank you for the...
Thank you. And I just wanted to add to part of what our role is an advisor too. So we're a thought partner as part of the team, our entire team. So we're bringing our expertise as thought partners and to execute what you need. So thank you.
I'd like to thank you for the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam President.
We will now move to item 5.2, consider approval of the program manager contact for AECOM Technical Services, Inc. for the management of the Measure A and G capital improvement bonds. May I have a motion?
Motion to move.
Second.
We will open for discussion on the item.
Y'all do not want me to turn back on this mic. Can somebody just ask my question?
This is the appropriate place for you to ask that question.
Okay.
Yeah, just my question is, we have a lot of work to do. I know you guys are going at all deliberate speed and with a high level of professionalism. And my question is, we are going to have a start that's going to be a lot of things converging at once. And when I have seen 5-year contracts, it's generally been without the type of development that we're doing underneath. So how do we, tell me your thoughts regarding the 2-year versus the 5-year, because I think that it is a stated truth, but it's a much more difficult practice to unwind any contract, particularly one that's going to be so involved and integrated into our very performance and also when we get contracts and we got to finish on time and under budget, and notice I said under budget, it's hard to change anything, but it doesn't give an ending date gives us a chance to at least say let's go up until here and then do the extension as we're still working and possibly with the price quotes that we have still under here intact. So I'm just asking in terms of strategy for the district, since we're starting a lot at once and may need some adjustments, what are your thoughts on 2 years, check after the first, check at 6, check at 12, and then do the extension for the 5 on an initial 2-year as opposed to starting off with a 5?
So I realize that I'm taking a risk when I'm having this exchange with an attorney, but I'm going to try. And then I'll ask VC Sata to speak to it. First of all, I'd like for you to consider, I'll just say, I recognize and I understand the ways in which sometimes you can have reservations because of past histories, but it also impacts your ability to move forward. And so what you have is you can think about this as a 3-year base contract with the opportunity to consider the 4th and the 5th year. But the reality is, for many reasons or for multiple reasons in terms of performance and the things that you may have concerns about, it's a contract that lasts until you have that concern. And so if you have that concern about performance before 3 years, it's actually not a 3-year contract because the language in the contract gives us room to move out of the contract if there are concerns around performance. The other thing is that I would say is that there is something to be said about being able to get something going, get that project moving, establishing the relationships that we have to establish, and then allowing it to go forward instead of having to do stop, start, stop, start, stop, starts. So that's something to be said. And then the third thing is whatever we're going to learn out in the the 3rd year, then if anything, the first 2 years are where we are learning about things like, are we satisfied with the performance? Have we established the relationships? Are we making the connections in the community, et cetera? So stopping it at the end of 2 years doesn't give us anything that the same thing with stopping at the end of 3 years would do. Because if the industry standard is that you have a contract around 3 years, it's built such that you wouldn't have it any longer than that if you don't want to have it any longer than that. So I'll stop with that. That didn't look like it was real convincing. So I'll stop with that and see if there's anything Vice Chancellor Sata wants to add.
Thank you, Chancellor. I think I would only add that if you look at the overall program schedule that we designed for Measure G, it is a 5-year schedule, and the goal is to expend the $800 million plus the state funding within 5 years. The other thing I would add is that it is we have 5 state-funded projects that have already started, and typically the first year and a half is the amount of time you need to do the design work and then go to DSA and get approved before you actually go to construction. So really when you consider a 3-year contract, you'll just be seeing the first set of projects that we are already in progress on finishing up. So if there is a natural break time, that could be a very natural time to stop. A project life, the life of any construction project is typically 3 to 4 years. And so one of the reasons for the 3-year contract is it allows us to evaluate this team over the course of an entire project, not only helping get the controls set up for design, but also getting the controls set up for construction. And a lot of the things that you mentioned as concerns, the PLA, CUPCA, and things like that, are really more construction related. So we have some time to do the proper infrastructure building now.
His answer was much better than mine. Yes.
Trustee Handy.
Okay, I'm not clear on what I thought I just heard. Did you say that, okay, the 5 projects that are already going on, that are existing projects, those are not part of the new bond project?
They are actually started, the funding is beginning in most cases with Measure A, but will largely be funded with Measure G funds.
Okay, but these are projects that we have, again, I'm looking at our existing employees. Are we replacing our people who have already started those projects with this consultant group? Or my understanding was this group is moving forward? Okay.
No,
Yeah.
no, if I may, what
I'm
we
not
have
quite
is
sure what I just heard.
Yeah, we're severely understaffed, and what you have now.
I know. I mean, you were until you came and until the chancellor came, there was no budget, there was no staff, there was nothing. So they were pulling everything out of their whatever to make things happen.
Right.
But now that we have the funds, the people who have worked so hard to keep everything going with their fingers in the dike, I am really concerned about what's happening with them.
Yes, so their role will remain, and we will supplement. So, for example, we have currently one design manager managing 5 projects. That's not good practice and really not possible. And because I have that experience as well, I'm also stepping in and doing some of that and helping with the program management tasks. So having an AECOM join, as well as the construction managers that we plan to hire in the next round, will really help. It's going to supplement the team, not take anybody's job away.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? So I just have a couple of comments, and they're kind of in line with some of the other trustees. But first, once I'd like to thank again AECOM for their presentation and for the proposal. And thank you, VC SADA, for all the work that went into generating this, this RFP process. I do have a question about referencing bonds A and G and not just our GO bond. And so I don't know if that's just a nuance that I'm picking up, but typically we would just call something a GO bond project and not reference the actual measures.
He's doing it like a state application. He's speaking like the TDS speaks.
Right. So I'm just talking, so this is kind of to the Chancellor and your team. As we develop a bond program, which is what has been put in front of us, this really epitomizes a GO bond program and not a specific Measure A, Measure G. There might be some Measure E bond left over somewhere else, right? And so, because I know we haven't expended all the way down 100%. So this is a GO bond program. And so I just want to make sure that we are consistent on the language as we are talking not only with our extended community partners, but also with our COC, with the Oversight Commission, that we're using the same, that we're consistent with the language. So that's just a FYI. I did hear reference to the project labor agreement and the renegotiation of a project labor agreement, which is critical, especially with bond dollars as public funds, yes. And the community component that I heard Trustee Brown will always bring up for us to make sure that we are focused on our community outreach really spoke to me in ways that went beyond just, are we ensuring that we're doing this? We actually need to see a very clear, thoughtful plan implemented around community outreach, as well as how do you contract with a public institution like Peralta? How do we help our local small businesses be successful in obtaining contracts through in a very intentional way? So I think about contracting with Peralta 101. How does that happen, and how do we make sure that we're being very clear and concise about that? And the last piece, Trustee Handy, on the replacement, I mean, that's a real concern that you bring up, and And I know that if we look at best practices of bond programs, sometimes they're internal to a district and sometimes they look like this. And I think a lot of it depends on capacity. But I think you actually called it and named it, which I think is really critical, that we want to ensure that we are not replacing or displacing our staff. And I think that's critical, and we need to keep that at the forefront. That's right. That's right. Thank you for that. And so with that, I would like to go ahead and call the question, or we have another.
One last question. I understand what Trustee Bonilla was saying regarding naming the specific bond measure that the funds are coming from, but I appreciated it also for the DGS. You did an amazing job linking together different bond programs to get so that we could get the state match. And I know that's why you refer to it as A&G, because you cobbled all that stuff together, and that's why we got the state match. One of my questions I was thinking I might ask, but I decided not to ask, but now I'll ask, was with ACOM, they will help you do the closeout for I'm presuming that part of the paperwork and technology investment is that we'll have the documentation we need to do for the closeout so that we end up getting all the money back from the state that we think we're going to get on the front end. And that's part of why you need this group, right?
Yes, one of AECOM's roles, in addition to the overall, kind of watching over the funds, is that there is a consultant that's part of their team that has a specialty in state-funded projects, and it is their job to make sure that we meet the state deadlines and provide the documentation that the state expects, and then to ensure that the reimbursement framework is properly done. There is actually a set of documents that have to go to the state to claim that money. And both the AECOM managers as well as this specialty consultant will be working together to ensure that we don't leave the funds on the table.
He's nodding, so that's a good sign. He's like, yeah, I got that. Okay.
Thank
Promise?
you for that.
Boy Scouts honor?
I'll go ahead and call the question, and we will do a roll call vote, seeing no more questions.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
No, right? I haven't. Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Abiding in my anxiety, I shall vote yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Napolia Bella Reese?
Yes.
And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you, and congratulations. Who did I get a sign? Was that our Chancellor? Chancellor, so I know we're on public, so, we are, in essence, and I have to just share this with everyone. I said, Chancellor, we get married to ACOM. I need an engagement party. Can we have a presentation? So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will move to consent calendar. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napolia Bella Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll take the first action item 4.1, which was moved from consent to action. And who was the mover on that? Trustee Withrow.
Just a quick point on this. A lot of the new courses that were listed, to me, are very exciting. They're very interesting. And I read these every time some of these things come up before the board. But then I got thinking, how are we communicating this to our constituency? How are we communicating this to the students that are here already, but more the prospective students? How are we selling these particular courses and the associated faculty? How are we doing that? Do we use apps, for example? Apps, that's the way younger adults communicate. Okay, they don't communicate on paper anymore, and send out paper and flyers and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't sell. So I guess my point is, in bringing this up to action, to recommend and request that we have a briefing for the board to talk about how we market and sell what we're here to deliver. For example, one simple one to me is a business guy. There's one having to do with banking. Are we targeting electronically the Bank of America, the Wells Fargo Bank, the Bank of Marin, and the various banking industries throughout the Bay Area here? Are we targeting them so that they understand that these courses are available? Because they have a lot of them employees that need that education. So anyway, my point is that, and I'll move approval, but that we have in the near future a briefing on how we sell what we do.
Thank you for that, Trustee. I'm with you. Trustee Weinstein.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for doing this every time we have a meeting. I have a question. When we are bringing new courses on or leaving courses off, I'm not sure what appropriate, yeah. How do we make that decision?
We have I'm actually excited that anybody has had comments about curriculum and courses because it is on every agenda. And it is, of course, it drives what we do, obviously. And to Withrow's point, we have some amazing faculty who are engaging in some really progressive new programs and courses that the community does want. So we have a very rigorous curriculum approval process that starts at the colleges. It's all documented in our PCAMP, our Peralta Program and Course Approval Manual that's based off the state legislation. And so a curriculum committee on the campus, which has really well-trained faculty and administration on it, including the Vice President of Instruction. The dean is involved, department chairs. And that's rigorous. They're looking at everything from assessments to, the wording to all the requirements. And then it comes to the district curriculum and program development committee. That's a district-wide committee. And we go through a very rigorous and sometimes very argumentative process around curriculum, especially courses that are offered at one or more campuses that require consultation, which means faculty have to agree on language and wording and things. And then the final step, actually before that step, we're looking at it in academic affairs to catch everything that's required by law. It's very specific. And then it comes to the board for approval. And now that there's more local control and approval, we do appreciate that the board takes a look at the curriculum because it's you that has that final say. That's really important.
So I just want to kind of expand that a little bit. So when you are analyzing and discussing and debating it and the courses, are you putting it within the context of what's needed in our communities?
Yes, that's part of the process in the initial phases. Not at the district level, but at the college level. Faculty are talking with their colleagues in their department. They're aware of data in their discipline especially their CE programs, and they propose a course, they start to propose ideas to their dean. And that's one of the things the dean is looking at too is this a viable course? You could have a great idea for a course, but it's not what our students will take. And so there's a discussion there about what really is our community asking for and will our students take, and what satisfies the CSUs and IGETC and those kinds of things. So that's where it starts.
So just to clarify, at that beginning part, you're also discussing, for instance, what Alameda needs in the next few years, something that has been brought up by, let's say, the Board of Supervisors or another group that says, you know, when we look at the economy going ahead, these are probably the areas that are most important. And so is that where the discussion happens with the dean at the beginning?
Yes, it does. It depends on the program, but yes, and the presidents can definitely weigh in. For what you're talking about for CE programs, there's a lot of data around forecasting careers and industry and where it's headed, especially with strong workforce. There's just a lot of information available, and that's what faculty are looking at. That's what the CE committee talks about as well, about what is really needed and how to transform the curriculum. And so you see things like the banking, or you'll see non-credit degrees, because faculty are really engaging in what is it that our community is asking for. They're changing their certificates so that they're short-term stackable ones, so it's quicker and easier to get through. Just looking at all the dynamics that would draw our community into our curriculum. And it's ironic you bring this up today, because we just had a district academic senate meeting, and I asked them what is it that they can do on their campuses to excite the faculty that are not engaged in curriculum into getting excited about it. Because as much as we have many faculty who are very engaged and it's very progressive, we have many more who are not. And without strong curriculum, it is hard to pull in working adults and people who are looking to get some skill advancement, you know, as quickly and as effectively as possible, so they can continue their careers and earn more for their families.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chancellor?
Yes, I was just going to add to it that there are a number of ways in which faculty will bring forward curriculum in terms of course additions or deletions. One of the things is that they have regular exchanges with students, and so you can hear student demand. We hear it at the board, we hear it in the colleges, you hear it in the middle of different committees, you hear it in the middle of different activities, et cetera. The other thing is that the faculty are connected, many of the faculty, particularly in career technical education, are connected with business and industry. And so some of them actually work in business and industry, and they are able to help keep that connection. But also they have advisory committees, and those advisory committees provide the intellectual direction and help drive the direction of the curriculum as well. The other things is that the faculty are connected to their intersegmental colleagues. So it's not just career technical education, but it is what is going on in terms of CSU and UC, our public institutions, our transfer institutions. The other things is the faculty are connected across the state for different statewide initiatives. So anything from the Basic Skills Initiative and AB 705 to Guided Pathways will lead to either the development or deletion of change or modification of curriculum as well. So between all of those different things and working with their intersegmental colleagues, the colleagues in terms of workforce and economic development, the business and industry, their advisory councils, and working with the students. And then when we do the work in terms of just accessing what is the community interested in, then they're able to translate those interests into curriculum, whether it's increase in curriculum, decrease in curriculum, changing things, modifying, or even modifying the what mode in which curriculum is delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. If there are no other questions, we'll go ahead and take roll call. Thank you.
Before we do, can we just, I don't believe we had a second, so I know the motion was from Trustee Withrow. Do we have a second?
There was a second.
Nancy, second. Yeah,
Trustee Reese?
second, yeah.
Yes, and you did.
You did.
Thank you. Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We will move to action item 8.1. Consider adoption of Resolution 19/20-32 of conveyance of the Board of Trustees of the Peralta Community College District to dedicate and convey a public utility easement to the city of Alameda. Can I have a motion?
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 8.2, consider adoption of Resolution 19/20-33 declaring futility of public bidding and approval of a contract for fire sprinkler repair at the College of Alameda with Johnson Controls Fire Protection, LP, for $7,043. May I have a motion?
I second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion?
Just
Trustee
one
Brown.
question. Isn't this a sole source, Johnson Controls? I mean, or is it effectively sole source because we have their stuff everywhere else and it's proprietary?
It's the latter.
All right.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we will go ahead and do roll call, please.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes.
And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. 8.3, consider approval of amendment number 1 to facilities use permit agreement with Oakland Pro Soccer LLC. May I have a motion? It's been moved and second. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 8.4, consider ratification of change order number 1 agreement with ACCO Engineered Systems to provide additional materials for labor and repair and diagnostic services of mechanical systems for buildings A, B, D, E, F, and G at Laney College. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese? Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We will move to Board of Trustee reports. Trustee Brown.
Well, I went to the CCLC, Community College League of California conference in Sacramento with several of my colleagues. We did talk to the state legislature about the student-centered funding formula and the impact on our college with regard to the cost of living for students and how the high cost of living in the Bay Area was something that was important for consideration, and the factor of poverty needing to weigh more heavily when there's a huge disparity with regard to financial resources. We also had the opportunity to participate in several presentations, one given by our Chancellor. She did an excellent job, so I hear. I was not there for her particular presentation, but she did a great job. And it's good to know that our Chancellor is a leader on issues such as contract debt. That's to your earlier question, Trustee Weinstein, providing what your community needs. and being able to increase the services and the enrollment and the showcasing the capacity of our faculty through providing the courses that our community needs and our industry needs is something that our chancellor is very skilled at, and now everybody else in the state is more than aware of that. So we've actually put bars on the windows in her home so that she can't escape. Let's see. So we also had an opportunity to have the third annual awards, the African American Community College Trustees Award. Dr. Shirley Weber and Mike Gibson were given awards. One of the awards was for the work that was done in representation of the Compton Community College and helping them get their accreditation back. And also a trustee in El Camino that was working for equity in community colleges and providing opportunities for students, and an administrator in San Bernardino who was working on community, actually diversity, increasing the diversity of the campus in San Bernardino in order to meet the needs of the students and support student success. So it was a very, very busy conference for us. And I also had the opportunity to go to the Joint Caucus with a couple of my colleagues. And that was great to share some of the work that the Joint Caucus has been doing and the high level of commitment that members of the Joint Caucus have to student success.
Thank you for that. Trustee Weinstein.
Yeah, thank you. As well, I was able to go to part of the California Community League conference, and piggybacking a little bit on what Dr. Trustee Brown has said, I did go to the All Caucus meeting, and I was really impressed with the people who were there, who were giving reports about their caucuses, but also they were running for the, to be a, is it a member on the? Yeah. And our own trustee, Napella Bellaris, spoke, and she was very good. But in addition, I was able, and I think we were all able to meet some people who've just been working for years and doing some pretty incredible work. And so it was very enlightening for me, and I was very moved by it and very thankful that Trustee Brown invited me to come to it. I did go to a workshop on housing, and that was really, really good. And they discussed two different ways that housing could be funded by foundation work, but the other one in Compton was about the private-public policy of bringing money, finances in, and it's very fascinating to see how they're working on it. They're working on it slightly different, but they're very motivated, and it gave me some ideas, and I'm sure people who were sitting there got ideas on different approaches and how Peralta may be able to approach it as well. Also, the issue of equity and poverty and whether we're doing justice for our students was really very important and spoken. And I felt very happy and pleased that it's a very important issue in the state, and again, learned something. I want to give credit and thank Trustee Handy and Trustee Brown for the work that they've been doing on the state level as well as the national level when it comes to issues of equity. And you know, we don't really talk about it because we're often talking about other things, but being there and having a sense of what's going on, I was very pleased and very happy and very thankful for the work that they are doing. So that's my report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Trustee Withrow. Student Trustee Stanley. Trustee Handy.
Thank you. I think last weekend was a signal that the new year had started. You know, the lull of the first few weeks of January, it was over. My morning started with a panel. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Black Women Organized for Political Action, BWOPA. And I was honored to be one of the panelists on the program for BWOPA Tile, which is a leadership program for young women who want to enter into politics. And it was Level Up Your Game to Run for Office. It was a master class. And there were women who were on the panel that came from Los Angeles and all over the place, and they were talking about running a campaign, what that takes, how you build your support, and then my panel was really the nuts and the bolt. How do you decide that you're going to run for an office? What things are important? Who are your constituency? What is your message? What does it actually cost? And I reminded them of one of our congresspersons who has passed away, Stephanie Tubbs Jones. She used to say, give me a manicure. Just the amount of money for a manicure. Let's count up how many stamps I can send that up. Or can you give me like that one dress that you really don't need or that one pair of shoes? When you break it down to stamps and literature, people really understand when they're saying, oh, you need 80,000 or 100,000 to run for a race so that you don't get paid and you're going to dedicate all of your life. But people don't always understand that all the money that people are asking for goes right back out in stamps and postage and walkers and all of those. So there were incredible people there in the audience as well. And to watch some people that I've known that were elected the same time as I was, judges and all of those. And I was also happy to have my 10-year-old granddaughter with me, who I thought was listening, but she got busted later. We found out she was actually texting someone. But still, it was great to have her there. She's going to be on restriction for another week. And we said, why were you texting? Because Nana wasn't watching. Okay, but again, we just keep bringing them. And then I had to run from there to go back to my children's home to celebrate the Asian New Year with a whole traditional Korean dinner, and then get in my car and drive to Sacramento, where I just passed out the minute I walked in. But it was an incredible time. And then also, Chancellor, we have lots of cards. Buffy Wick's office wants to meet with you. And Nancy Skinner's office, I have the cards. I just realized I didn't give them to you because I was exhausted when I got home. But the reception, the third annual reception that we did, was really amazing. And the other thing that I also wanted to say is that it was great to see my colleagues in the joint caucuses, and also to hear the one thing that really just makes my heart feel good is how all of the caucuses really are challenging CCLC and ACCT to not have caucus meetings at the same time. The African American caucus is not limited to African Americans. It is limited to the constituency that you serve. So many of the members of our caucuses are there to learn how to best help their students. But all of the people that I see in CCLC and the building of these caucuses, we went from nothing maybe 5 years ago to each caucus is very, very large. But they're all dedicated and committed to student success and the opportunity to learn how other colleges are running programs and having great successes with it. That's why we go, because we learn from each other. We learn what's going on, what's working and what's not working. But the most important thing that I see that commitment from trustees all up and down the state of California is their absolute commitment to the caucuses. And also, if you put your head down or you're texting during a meeting, you might find that you are now the next president of a caucus. So just be warned.
Or doing a presentation, Chancellor.
Or on the diversity committee for a national coast too. I don't text in meetings anymore. But anyway, so it was a very full 3 days, but it was really worthwhile, and I'm glad to be back. And we are off this weekend to ACCT, the three of us. we'll be doing all the lobbying and trying to bring the money back. Maybe we can find like the $3 million we found for the aviation department some years ago. Maybe some of the work that we've done before is going to pay off for us. But it's going to be an interesting week to be in Washington, don't you think?
That's right. Go find that money.
We're going to find the money.
Student Trustee Contreras.
We met the 4 campuses, all the sister colleges met at Berkeley City College. We also met with the Peralta alumni from former student trustees, and they were basically just giving us feedback on how they can help us more bringing the campuses closer together. Like I've said, I've always believed in unity, and for me, I always preach it. Let's not compete against one another. Let's compete not against one another, but with one another. So that for me, and us having that monthly meeting as me as a trustee and being a former student body president for Berkeley City College, actually seeing all 4 presidents come together was actually really nice, because it's the first time I've actually seen it since I've actually been at Peralta. So that was really refreshing. Also, our VC Siri Brown met with us, moving forward with the AC Transit Easy Pass and how we're moving forward. We selected that all the 4 presidents would be part of the committee that we would be speaking with AC Transit, and either myself or Duell or both will also be part of that discussion. Hopefully this week that team will be assembled so we can start getting talks ready for the new contract for August 2020, and basically what's more beneficial, and because I know the costs for AC Transit have gone up. So it's very important to also realize that in negotiating, it's also a contract that we need to go negotiate for students, because I know the cost going up, some of our students still can't afford it. So we'll very closely be in conversation with that. And my Niners lost, so I'm heartbroken. So it's bad. And there is therapy sessions for that, so I was very upset, but go Niners. But that's my report for tonight.
Thank you for that. VP Reese.
So I too was at the CCLC conference, and I was at the caucus, and it was interesting because I was close to Trustee Handy when she had said that, when she had made the announcement that the African American caucus is not just for African Americans, but if your constituencies are such, please come. And you didn't realize this, but there were so many people that looked up and had an epiphany at that particular moment in time. And I say that because I think it's so interesting to actually meet our colleagues outside of the board, because we see different parts of them, and we see how effective they are outside of the board when you meet each other in different spaces in different places. The other exciting thing that I think happened at CCLC during the caucus is that they announced that there's going to be a women's caucus, which I think is so fabulous and really exciting and long overdue, I'm sure. A few other aspects that I will mention. Saw the fiscal monitor on stage. It was great to see him up there, and we traded places for a moment there. So he was up there, and he was one of the panelists. And there were also quite a few conversations about community colleges being relevant. One of the speakers who spoke, I can't remember. Oh, no. I can't. You guys will be able to tell me who that person was. The individual that spoke on the moment that at the same morning that Kobe Bryant passed away. Who was that speaker? You both know which speaker that was. He was. Okay, sorry. Right, it will come to us tonight.
Actually, when we went
El Camino College?
Oh, yeah. No, Sacramento.
Sacramento College? What's?
Bush.
Yeah, Ed Bush.
Yes. He was dynamic. He was great. He was amazing. Hopefully he is not watching, that it took us such a long time to figure out what his name was. But he had 2 other individuals that he was interviewing. And I think what was really interesting about that was he was talking to them about how to make community colleges relevant at this particular point in time. And he was talking about innovation, and he was talking about courageous conversations, but also courageous curiosity. And I think that that's one thing that we need to always have within our community colleges, within our colleges in general. And then I attended many different sessions, but 2 of the sessions that I thought were most interesting in terms of takeaways takeaways was the one on federal national conversations and federal legislation and how it's affecting students. And one of the things that he had said was talking about second chance Pell Grants for incarcerated students, the dialogue in terms of investment in education and workforce development, and the ways in which at the national level, many legislators are talking about metrics and outcomes, and we've seen the result of that here too as well. But the ways in which bodies and individuals and trustees and CCCT as well as CCLC as well as ACCJC need to go to those discussions and let them know who our students are, and that the metrics and the outcomes that they are so propounding so vigorously may not necessarily take into account the variables and the elements of our students. And again, that becomes particularly important because we are the great equalizer, and we have such a role in society, and yet when we have metrics and outcomes that are continually forced upon ourselves and our students and tied to funding, then we see, unfortunately, the consequences, the grave consequences of that. So I think that is all that I have to say until the next CCLC conference.
Wow. You guys are amazing.
Why weren't you there?
Right? You all are amazing. I missed it. I definitely missed it, and that is going to be, unfortunately, a big part of my my year this year, just because of the work that's happening locally around workforce development. So while you are all out there championing at the state and at the national level, I'll be here waiting for those money to roll in, okay?
We'll bring it back.
Yeah, so it's been absolutely, so what an honor to work with and to be side by side with such amazing trustees, all of you. I appreciate you to the moon and back, and the student trustees with all of your dedication and work as well. So thank you. Yes, thank you. And so we will move into announcements.
The next regular board meeting will be held on February 25th at the District Office Boardroom. The board wishes the community a happy Black History Month in February and a happy Chinese New Year of the Rat.
Yes.
Madam President, that concludes the announcements.
Thank you. This meeting is meeting adjourned.